Hello and welcome to another video from Dan's Tutorials. Today we're going to be taking a look at numbers on the iPhone, basically a beginner's guide to using numbers on the iPhone. Now what we're going to be doing is showing you from my iPhone 14, although numbers does work on older iPhones of course, and I'm going to be showing you with iOS 17. But numbers again does work with older iOS systems as well. Now, not all of the features may work. I know that with collaboration, which I'll show you towards the end, collaboration does take at least iOS 17. So not all of the features will work if you are using an older version of iOS. Now, before we get started, if you like what you see here, stick around till the end. I'll have a little bit more about myself and how you can help support my efforts in creating these videos. All right, with that out of the way, let's take a look at numbers. The first thing we're going to be taking a look at is how we can use templates and how we browse our files. Let's go over to my iPhone and see how this works. So I'm looking at my iPhone here and I have numbers here on my home screen. So let's go ahead and tap on it to open it up. Now, when you open it up and you haven't opened up a document, if you have opened up a document, it'll open up to that document by default. But if you haven't opened up a document, what it's going to do is it's going to show you all of your recent documents. Let's first take a look at how we can create documents. We do this through templates. When I tap on the plus here, what it's going to do is it's going to open up a template chooser. And then from there, I can select what kind of template I want to open. So we can see that they are categorized up here, and I can also scroll up to view all of the different categories. I can even save my own templates down here towards the bottom. I'll show you that shortly. Now, when we're looking at these templates, we can swipe over to the left to view more templates. So just because you see a few templates here doesn't mean that there aren't more templates. You just swipe over to view them all. You tap on any one of them to open it up. So let's go with simple budget here. All I have to do is just tap on it, and now it's opening it up. If you just wanted to create a blank document, I tap on the arrow here to go back. And then from there, what you do is you just go to the plus again in the upper right-hand corner, and then all you have to do is just choose blank. When you select blank, what it's going to do is just open up a blank document. And now we have my table here. More on that in a little bit. So that's how we open up our documents. Now, let's say I made some changes to this. I want to save it. I want to rename it. How do we do that? Well, basically, we just go up to the More button here. And then when we tap on that, you're going to see that we have some options to rename it and even move it. So that's basically how we save them. When you are looking at all of your files, you are looking at this through a file browser. So right now I am looking at all of my recents, but if we go down towards the bottom here, you're going to see that I can also look at all of my shared documents, and I can browse them. And when I browse them, it's like I'm looking through a file browser, the Finder on the Mac, if you're familiar with the Mac. So from here, I'm able to traverse to different folders. I just tap on this, and I can go to the different folders. Also, I am able to go to my template chooser, again, just by tapping on the plus here. Now let's talk a little bit more about the templates. How can I save a document as a template? Well, let's say I wanted to create a template from this. Maybe I made some changes to this. I want to create a template from this. All you need to do is just go up to the More button here again, where we can go and save it, rename it, and you're going to see that we have another option here called Export. And all we have to do is just export it out as a numbers template. And when we do that, it'll save it to numbers templates. So let's go ahead and do that. I just tap on it. And now I can go and add it to my template chooser. And you're going to see under my templates here, I have that new template. To rename it or delete it, all you have to do is just long press on it, and you can rename it, share it, and delete it. We can only do this with your own templates. We cannot rename any of Apple's templates here. We can't delete them. All we can do is rename and delete our own templates. So now that we know how to create documents, let's go ahead and open up a document, and let's take a look at the interface to numbers, how we get around numbers. Basically, we do this through sheets. So let's go back over to my iPhone. So let's go ahead and just open up a blank. We're just going to start out fresh. So I'm just going to go ahead and tap on blank here. It's just going to be a blank spreadsheet here. So now what am I looking at here? Well, basically what we have is a sheet, and I call this a canvas. Everything that we put on the sheet, think of Excel with a worksheet. That's basically what this is, and we can have multiple sheets, more on that in a little bit. But basically everything in this sheet is an object. So we have this table here. That is an object. If I wanted to add an image to it, text to it, all of those are objects. And we can move around these objects anywhere we want in this sheet. I can zoom out by pinching. I can zoom in by pinching. So if I had more objects in here, I could add them over here. I could add them over here. So everything on a numbers spreadsheet is an object. A chart is an object. Pivot table is an object. Image is an object. Text is an object. Everything is an object, including the table. To add more objects, what we do is we go up to the top toolbar here. And you're going to see that we have a plus. This is where we go and add objects. So when I tap on this, what I'm able to do is add tables, charts, as well as shapes, and I can also add images. Where do I add text? Text is under shapes. If I tap on shapes here, you're going to see that I have an option for text. This is a little different than what it is on the Mac. There's an actual text object that you can add. Well, this one's kind of buried under shapes. So all you have to do is just tap on it. Let's go ahead and add a shape. I just tap on the shape. We're just going to go with rounded corners here. There is my shape. And remember that this is a canvas, so what I can do is I can just drag this around anywhere I want. I can even place it on top of my other objects. So that works a little bit different than Excel. Excel is just one big worksheet, where numbers is a sheet or more a canvas, and we place our different cells on there, different tables on there, different objects on there. Now, when we're looking at our different objects, there is a pop-up menu. So now what I do is I just tap on the rounded corners, and you're going to see we have a pop-up menu. And then from here, I can go and copy it, delete it, I can format it. There is an arrow to the right, and from there I can select the objects. And if I tap on the arrow again, I can go and add to shapes, save this basically, add comments, and make it a link. Now this menu will change depending on what we have selected. So when I tap on the table here, if I tap on the little circle here, this is how you select a table. When I tap on that circle, I get my pop-up menu, and when I tap on the right arrow, I have table actions. Being that this is a table, what I'm able to do is perform different actions on there. So depending on what you have selected, you're going to have different options with that pop-up menu. Now, how do we get the keyboard? I tap in a cell. How do I get to the keyboard? Well, on the iPhone, what I have to do is just tap on this, and I get my keyboard. If I want to add a formula real quick, more on formulas shortly, I just tap on cell here, and now I can go and add a formula. Let's take a closer look at these sheets. I mentioned that we can add more sheets. To add a sheet, what we do is we just tap on the plus here. I go New Sheet, and now I have my sheet up here. If I want to rename it, I just double tap on it, and I can rename it. When I do just tap on it, if I don't double tap on it, I'm able to cut, copy, duplicate, or delete it. And then I can also rearrange it by just dragging it. And each sheet is like its own separate canvas. You're going to see that this sheet has the square on it, but when I go over to this sheet, it just has a table on it. And I could format this table separately from this sheet. It's two separate canvases, basically. So that is how we work with our sheets. Now, when we go back up to the top here, this is how we go and add our objects. I covered that. Well, if we tap on the left arrow here, we're going to go from left to right here. That'll take us back to our file dialog. So this basically just closes this document. Tap on that and it'll take me to all my other documents. I can go and share this. This is also how we collaborate. More on that in a little bit. I also have undo here. And when I tap and hold on it, I have redo. So not only can you undo, you can also redo. Just long press on that. And then we have format here. This allows us to format whatever we have selected. So if I wanted to change the color of this, I select it. More on selecting in a little bit. But I just select it, and then I tap on the paintbrush here. And then from here, I'm able to format it. A lot of different formatting options in there. And then we can also organize our tables. What does this do? Well, this allows us to categorize our tables. We can go and sort our tables and then filter it. Basically hide rows and columns. More on that in a little bit. And then our last button here is basically where we have more options. This is where you can go and export it out. As I mentioned earlier, we can set a password, hide the comments. I can put it into reading view, which basically just allows me to read it without actually making any changes. A great option on the iPhone. I go into reading view. Now I can tap around. I can't make any changes to it, but if I tap on edit here, then what it'll do is it'll allow me to edit that. So that is the More button. So that's basically how we get around our Numbers document on the iPhone. We have our sheet, which is our canvas. Everything goes on that canvas, and they're all called objects. We go to the toolbar at the top to add our different objects, to share the sheet, and anything that we have selected, we can format it, and then we can also organize it if it is a table that we have selected. So that's how we get around a document, a Numbers document on the iPhone. Now let's take a look at the anatomy of a table. What does a table comprise of in Numbers? Tables being the heart of any spreadsheet. Well, when we look at this, you're going to see that I have this table here. Now, the difference between Numbers and Excel is we can have multiple tables. When we look at an Excel spreadsheet, it is just one giant table. Well, with Numbers, it's actually different tables. So we have this one here, but then when I go up to the plus and I go and add a new table, you're going to see that I have another table here. And what I'm able to do is move that around on that canvas, on that sheet. So that's the big difference between Numbers and Excel. We have multiple tables with Numbers, where Excel is just one giant spreadsheet, one giant table. All right, so now let's, as I mentioned, let's take a closer look at these tables. I'm just going to delete this one here, and we're going to focus on this one here. So this table first comprises of a title, and the reason why we may want to title is because we have multiple tables. So what does each table represent? This is where we can go and put that title. We just tap on it, keyboard pops up, and we can go and change the name. We can also add a caption, which is down towards the bottom here. It is hidden by default. I'll show you where you can turn that on when we talk about formatting. On top of that, we also have our cells. So this here is a cell. And these cells are comprised of rows and columns. So I'm going to zoom back out here. And if we look, you're going to see I have a number of different rows. And then I also have a number of different columns. Where these columns and rows intersect is where we have our cells. And that's the basics of any spreadsheet, including Excel. We just tap on any one of the cells to enter data. Could be a number, could be text, could be a formula. Now, in addition to that, most tables will also have headers and footers. So if we look here, you're going to see that I have a gray area. That's the first row. That is because that is a header row. Usually what this will do is this will label what is in that table. So if this was products, it may list the different products in there. And then we have another header column here. This could be dates. Maybe it's sales dates, so we might want to put dates in there. And we can have multiple header rows and columns, so I could add more in here as well as more over here. The last thing that we can also add is a footer. This would be down towards the bottom. This one doesn't have one, but I'll add one shortly. When we do add a footer in there, this is where we could have the subtotal. So that's basically how a table works. We have our different cells in there. They're arranged in columns and rows. The first row, the first column are usually headers telling us what the data is, and we can have more if we want. We also could have a last row be a footer where we could have the totals. And then we have our titles. With Numbers, we can have multiple tables in there, and then we can move them around. We can even link them together with formulas. So that is the basics of a numbers table. Now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at how we select these tables and cells. There's a little bit of a trick to it, especially on the iPhone. So the way that it works is to select a cell, all we have to do is just tap on it. So we can see that I tapped on that. That cell is selected. So if I wanted to, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. If I wanted to select this cell here, I just tap on it, and we can see that it is selected. And then from there, I'm able to pull up the keyboard by tapping on that or double tapping on it. So that's how we select a cell. Pretty simple. But how do I select a table? Maybe I want to move that table. Well, in order to select a table, what we first have to do is select the cell, select any cell, just tap on any cell. And then I'm going to zoom back out. When we have anything selected within a table, there's always going to be this little dot here in the upper left-hand corner of any table. So if I had two tables on here, I tap on a cell in that second table, it's going to have that little dot. That little dot is where we can select the table. So now what I'm able to do is take that dot and drag it around, and what it'll do is it'll move that table. And remember how we had the pop-up menu? When I tap on it, all of this is for tables because I tapped on that dot. So we select a cell first, and then we tap on that dot. Now we can also select multiple cells. To select multiple cells, maybe I want to format multiple cells at the same time, we first tap on a cell, and then you're going to see that we have these little dots here in the upper left-hand corner and the lower right-hand corner. I just drag those to include more cells. And that's how we can select multiple cells. Now if I were to go to format these cells here, I would format all of them, make them all bold, change the color, anything like that. And then the last thing is we can also select rows and columns. Maybe I want to change the color of this header column. Well, in order to do that, what I have to do is just tap on the table again. This is going to be a two-step process. Tap anywhere on the table, and then I tap on the column, and now that entire column is selected. From there, I'm able to format it, including change the color. Rows basically work the same way. I just tap anywhere. And then I just tap on the row here. So let's just go with row number 1. And now that row is selected. And if I want to increase that selection again, we have our dots here, and I can go and drag that down to increase that selection. And then from there, I'm able to format it. So that's how we select our different tables, as well as cells, columns, and rows. The next thing we're going to look at is how we enter data into the cells. Well, this is pretty simple. You probably already caught that. I mentioned it a few times. Let's go and enter data into a cell. All we have to do is just double tap on it. Keyboard comes up, and then from here I can start typing. If I wanted to add a formula, more on that in a little bit, I tap on the equal sign. I can also add a date in here, and if I want a keypad, all I have to do is just tap on 1, 2, 3 here, and I get a nice keypad there. So it makes it really easy to add numbers in here. So we just double tap on it to pull that up. I can also select it and then go down to the bottom here and tap on that, and I get my keyboard. We can also enter quick formulas, more on that in a little bit, but basically we just go here, and then I can go and enter in current date, a new formula, the stock quote. I can create a pivot table. I can also enter quick formulas. So those are the basics of entering data. Now let's say I wanted to autofill. What I want to do, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I want to fill this column with the day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as an example. Well, what I can do is I can go in here, double tap, pulls up the keyboard, I type in Monday. And now what I would need to do is type in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, with autofill, we can have numbers do that for us automatically. All we have to do is just select Monday here. So I just tap on it to select it. And then from here, what we do is we go over to the lightning bolt. This lightning bolt gives us some special functions, including autofill. Now, when I tap on this, what it's going to do is it's going to put a yellow border around there. And then you're going to see that I have a double horizontal line here. All I have to do is just drag that down and watch what happens. You can see that it's just filling that in. It's auto-filling that. Let's try this with months. I'm just going to go and undo this. I tap on this to undo it. And I'm going to go in here, and we're going to put in here January. And again, I tap on the lightning bolt here. I have autofill. I drag it down, and look what happens. It fills it in with the date. We can even do this with numbers. So I'm going to undo again. And I'm just going to double tap in here, and I'm just going to put a 1 in here. Let's delete this here. I'm just going to put a 1 in there. Now, when I go to the lightning bolt to autofill, what do you think it's going to do when I drag this down? Well, it doesn't know what the pattern is. With days, it's pretty simple. Months is pretty simple. It knows what you want to do. But do you want to have this be consecutive? Do you want to have this be odd numbers? What do you want it to be? What is the pattern? Well, it doesn't know it yet. So when I drag this down, watch what happens. It's just 1, 1, 1, 1. But if I were to put a number 2 in here, double tap, I put 2 in here, and now when I select both, I go to that autofill, tap on cell, go to autofill, and I drag this down. You're going to see that it figured out my pattern, 1, 2, and now it's just going in consecutive order. If I were to go 1, 3, it'd put all odd numbers in there. If I were to go 2, 4, it'd put all even numbers in there. It's figuring out the pattern. So with numbers, you may have to enter in a few more options to use autofill. Now you may have noticed another option there when I had multiple cells selected. Let's go ahead and select multiple cells again. So I select one, I drag it down. Let's just go over to the right here a little bit. So I have, we'll zoom out here a little bit. I have those cells selected. Let's try it again here. There we go. I have those cells selected. Now what I would like to do is merge those together, make it one giant cell. Again, what we do is we go here to cell, and then what we're able to do is merge it. So I tap on merge, and now that is one giant cell. If I have these cells here selected, Numbers doesn't know if I want to autofill it or merge it. So watch what happens when I go to cell here. I have the option to merge it, or I have the option to use autofill. And with autofill, I can go both up and down, and I can also autofill to the left and right. So that's how we work with our different cells, how we can enter data in there, use autofill, as well as merge our cells. Let's take a look at formulas. We're just going to take a basic look at formulas here. Formulas work pretty simple. If I wanted to add a formula, let's go ahead and undo this here so I don't have a merged cell in there. If I wanted to enter a formula in here, let's say I wanted to have a total down here. In order to do that, all I have to do is just tap on it, and we have a couple of different ways to do that. We have quick formulas, and then we can create our own formulas. Let's start out with quick formulas. Quick formulas are great for summing up a number of cells. So all I have to do is just select it, and then we go over to our cell here, and then when we swipe up, you're going to see that we have quick formulas. And all I have to do is just select the correct quick formula. So I'm going to go with sum here. And now we have, I'm going to zoom in, we have a sum there. It's summing up everything in that column. If I wanted to have an average, I could do that as well. Tap on cell, swipe up, and instead of sum, I'm going to choose average. So I tap on average, and now we can see we have an average there. So those are our quick formulas. But let's say I wanted to create my own formula. We can do that as well. All we have to do is go into that cell, and I'm going to delete it here. What we have to do is we have to type an equal sign. We're basically saying this cell equals, and then we type in the formula. So you're going to see that I have a shortcut here for equals. So I type on the equals, and the whole bar changes, and now what we have are formulas here. So basically our operators. Basically all I have to do is just tap on which cells I want to add in there. So let's say I wanted to have that cell and I wanted to multiply another cell. Tap on the multiplication, and then I go to another cell, tap on it, and now we can see my formula there. And it is color coding it. We can actually see the colors here match what I have going on down here. So we can easily figure out that formula. And it does follow natural operations there. Now, we also have built-in formulas with numbers, and there's a lot of them. All you have to do to view those is just go to this FX here, and when I do, you're going to see that it pulls up different functions. These are formulas. So now what I'm able to do is look at all of these different formulas here. Okay, that's nice, but the one that I'm looking for isn't showing. Well, that's because I'm looking at my recent formulas. I mentioned that Numbers has a lot of formulas. Well, when we go over to Categories here, watch what happens. We have a whole number of different categories, and when I go to a category, let's just go to Logical and Information. When I go there, you're going to see that I have a lot of different formulas in here. So if I wanted to have a formula with an if-then, based on an if-then, I want to see how that works. Well, if I type on if or tap on if, it's going to enter that formula. Well, you need to figure it out first. So you want to read about it, maybe see an example of how it is being used. Well, in order to do that, you don't tap on if. What you do is you tap on the I. And when you tap on the I, what it's going to do is tell you what it is. It's going to give you some examples of how it works. And then what you're able to do is see what related operations are as well. So once you figure out if that's the one you want, you just go back, and then you can tap on if, and it'll enter that function in there. So that's how you can figure out different formulas. Now, if you want to enter in a formula from another sheet, you can do that as well. So let's say I wanted to have, I'm just going to hit the green check mark. Let's say I wanted to have this be a formula from another sheet. I can't do it from another document, but I can do this from another sheet. And you're going to see that I have another sheet up here. So all I have to do is just tap on the equals here to put it into that formula mode. I tap on the cell, so let's just go with this one here. I want it to be that plus, so I put in the plus here. And then I go to my other sheet. So now what I do is I tap on sheet 2 here, and I tap on another cell. And you're going to see that it is going to add it to that formula. It adds the sheet in there, and then you can see that formula. And again, it is color coding them. So we can do a lot with formulas. We have our quick formulas. We can easily create basic formulas. And if you want to look up functions, you can also look up functions and add functions to your sheet as well. And again, you can also create formulas from other sheets. Not other documents, but other sheets. So now that we know how to enter our formulas, enter our data, we can add objects to our sheet. Let's take a look at how we make this all look good. This is what formatting does. We can add color, we can make text bold, things like that. So I have a different worksheet here. I opened up a different document, and you're going to see that I have some data in here. So what I want to do is I want to format this, maybe make some text bold, things like that, or even change this color here. Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to select what we want to format. So I go and select that table. I want to format the table, or maybe I want to format some cells in that table. So all I have to do is just tap on it to select it. I have that table selected as well as that cell selected. So let's first look at how we can format the table. I don't have to worry about which cell I'm selecting when I'm formatting the table. So from here, what I do is I just go up to the paintbrush, and then you're going to see that I have a few different options here. I have table, cell, format, and arrange. Let's first look at table. Anything in this section is going to apply to the table. So what I'm able to do is change the color of that table. So I just tap on green, and now we can see it is green. So those are quick formats. I swipe up. I can also add headers and footers. So I have one header in here. That's this green one. I can go and add more. I also have one header column, which is why this says 1. I can go and easily add more. Now another option we have is to freeze these columns. So what does that mean? Well, basically with header rows and header columns, what we're able to do is keep them on our display. As an example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe over to the right. You're going to see that my cells start disappearing. So I really don't know what these are. How can I find out what they are? Well, what we can do is we can freeze that header column. So now what I do is I tap on it again to select it. I go to the paintbrush, and then we make sure I'm looking at my table. Go to header and footer, and I'm going to turn freeze columns on. Now watch what happens when I turn this on. Now when that is on, when I swipe over, look what happens here. That column stays there, so I can always see what month it is. Now when I swipe up, you're going to see that this header row disappears. I want to freeze that as well. I tap on it. I go to the paintbrush. I make sure I'm looking at my table. I go to header and footer. And then I also freeze my rows. And now, even though I'm on my iPhone here, when I swipe up, you can see that header row is sticking there. It's freezing. And I can go to the left, and that header column is sticking there. So that's what freeze rows and columns mean. Now, another thing that we may want to do is add more rows and columns. How can we do that? Well, basically, we just tap on it, and then you're going to see these two horizontal lines. I drag those down, and I'm adding rows. We have the same thing with our columns. Drag that out. I'm adding more columns. If I want to delete them, I just drag it over to the left, and it deletes it. If I have data in here, it will not delete it. So it will not delete this row or this column. Anything where there's data, you can't delete it. You first have to delete the data, and then you can go and delete that. Now, once you add some rows and columns, what we can also do is add a footer row. Remember I talked about that a little bit ago? Well, when I go back up to the paintbrush here, under headers and footers, what I'm able to do is add a footer row. And this is where I may want to add a total. So I have that in there, and now I'm just going to close this. We can see that it is a different color. And then from here, I'm able to tap on it. I want to add a quick formula, swipe up. We're going to go to the summary, and now we can see that we have a nice summary. I go and add more columns or more rows. This will always be at the bottom. So that's what a footer row is. Let's see what other options we have with formatting tables. So I tap on it, we go to the paintbrush, I swipe up. I can also manually put in how many rows and columns I want to have. I can select the size. This is where I can go and add a caption. So when I tap on this, you're going to see that I now have a caption down there. I tap on it to change it. And then I can also add an outline, alternating rows, which are these gray areas here. Change the font, change the size. And that's all applied to the table. Now that's all for the table. What about cells? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to select your cells that you want to format. So I could select these here. I want to format those. Or maybe what I want to do is I want to format this column. So I select it first. Then what I do is I go to the paintbrush and I tap on cell, and any cells that I have selected will be able to format. So I could make that italic, and we will not make it bold. And you can see that when I zoom in here. They're not bold, and they are italic. So I'm going to bring it back here. I can go and change the size, change the color of the text. I can change the justification, and then we have our cell fill. So let's just go and make this yellow, and now we can see we have a yellow fill there. So all we have to do is just select what we want and then make our changes. And then we have format. This is for data. So basically what you're able to do is say that this is a date, and then you can set how it is formatted. If this is currency, I can set how to format that. How many decimal points do I want? So I just tap on it. I'm going to tap on the column because I want all of those rows there. So I tap on it, tap on the paintbrush. We go over to format here, and then I go over here to currency, tap on the I, and when I do, I can set if I want to use a thousand separator, if it's going to be accounting style, what the currency symbol is, anything to do with currency. So that's how we can format the data in there. And with dates, being that this is a date, what I'm able to do is go over here to date and time, and then I can set how I want that date to be shown. We can also arrange. So when I tap on this, you're going to see that I have arrange. Arrange is basically just layering all of our different objects. You know how I mentioned that all of this is objects on my sheet? Think of it like a deck of cards. Well, where is that card in relation to the other ones? Do you want it in back of it? Do you want it in front of it? So if you have multiple objects on there, you may need to go and layer that. And this is where you can go and arrange how they are layered. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with formatting is conditional highlighting. Instead of me formatting this, what I can do is I can have Numbers format this automatically. So it can change the color based on what is in that cell, based on a condition. To do that, we select the cells we want to add it to. So I'm going to select that column. And then we go to the paintbrush again at the very top here. And then from there, we go over to cell. We go back over to cell. And you're going to see add conditional highlighting. I tap on this, and then from here I can go and add rules. So let's just go and add a single rule. You can add more than one. So what I want this to do is, if it is greater than, so it's going to be a number, and it is greater than 500,000, that's a good sale day. So let's just go and make that green. And now, when I look at this, you're going to see that it added formatting in there automatically. I could add another rule in there saying if it's under 250,000, make it red. So then I know that that is a low sales day. And it's all automatic. I am not adding those formatting to it. Numbers is doing that based on specific conditions. So those are our different formatting options. Now let's take a look at how we can organize our data. What are the different options we have with organizing? Well, we're going to go back over to our same table here. And what I would like to do is organize this. First, talk about categorization. I'd like to categorize all of this. So then it's grouping them together. First thing that we have to do is you have to select the table. It doesn't matter where we select. I just tap on a cell within that table. And then from there, we go up to the Organize button. And you're going to see that we have three options. I have Categories, Sort, and Filter. But with categories, all I have to do is just tap on which category I want. It's pulling the name from that header row, so it's always good to label that, as I mentioned earlier. So I just go to Product here, and now you're going to see that it is organizing by product. That's basically all we have to do. And if you want to turn that off, you can easily turn that off just by going back up here and tapping on the slider. When I tap on the slider, it just turns it off, and now it is no longer categorized. If you want to sort it, two different ways to sort it. I can go up to the header column, and then under Column Actions, I can sort it, and then I can also go to Organize here, and then from here I can also sort it. I can sort it the entire table, or I can sort selected rows. In most cases, it's going to be the entire table, not selected rows. And then we can also base sorting on different rules. And then if you want to filter, which is basically hide data, you can do that as well. You go over here to Filter, and then I can go and add a filter. So what I would like to do is hide bicycles. So now let's go ahead and hide blank too. So it's just not going to show any cells that are blank. So now I just tap on Done, tap on the X, and now we can see it is only showing what I want it to show there. So it's hiding bicycles, and it is hiding any blank cells. Again, I can easily turn that off just by going up to Filter Table, turn it off, and then it turns it back off. Last thing I want to talk about with organizing is pivot tables. Numbers also does have pivot tables, which is basically, I would dare say, categorization on steroids. So I want to add a pivot table to this. The nice thing about pivot tables is it creates a different object So you're not messing around with the original data. It's probably easier if I show you how that works. So let's just go ahead and create a pivot table here. So I'm just going to tap on a cell here. Now what we need to do is we need to go over to our little dot here to get our pop-up menu. A few different ways to do this, but this is how I generally do it. I'll go to Table Actions. And now what you're going to see is Create Pivot Table. When I tap on this, it created a new sheet. So my table is still in the original sheet, but in this sheet here is going to be my pivot table. So let's just go ahead and tap on Pivot Options to see how this works. Tap on Pivot Options, and now you're going to see that I can set what I want in my columns, rows, and values. So we're just going to do a real simple pivot table. I'm just going to go with date here. And watch what happens when I tap on date. We can see that we have the date there. Now, it's not really telling me anything yet, right? Well, let's go back over to that pivot table. I tap on this here again. Goes back to my pivot table. The reason why it's not really telling me anything is because I didn't fill in the rest of this here. I don't have any values down here. What do I want to have for my values? Well, I'd like to have my revenue there. So now you can see that my revenue is here, and I can drag these anywhere I want. Now, when I go back over there, you're going to see that I have my revenue here. Let's go and add another pivot to it. Tap on the little Organize button. This time we're going to go with Product, and Product is going to be in columns. So now I close this, and we can see we have it organized by product. Now, I don't like to go horizontal, so I'm just going to go back to my pivot options, and I'm going to drag this down to my rows. This is how we can reorganize it. So I just take this and move it down, and now we can see it's organized just a little bit different. I just pivoted it. So that's what pivot tables are. Pretty powerful. Now, the nice thing about this is it doesn't mess with your original table. So I could go back over to the original table here, and you're going to see that I have my original table. I can go and make changes to this. I can go and add more data. And when I do, the pivot table here that it is based off of will go and reflect those changes. And I can easily just go and change how this is organized. I just tap on that and I can drag these around. I want to add power in there and maybe not product. Now we can see it by power and not by product. I could even add both of them in there. So pivot tables are pretty powerful and you can use them on the iPhone. Now what about charts? Well, we can also chart our data. And again, it builds another object, just like a pivot table. So when I go back over to all of my documents, I have this chart demo here. We're just going to pick on this one here. And in order to create a chart, you first have to select your table, and then you tap on the plus because we're adding another object here. And then here you're going to see the chart. And then I just select my chart. So we're just going to go with this one here. And now I've created that chart. Now, this doesn't really tell me anything yet. It's just one bar chart there. So how can I make changes to this? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to edit the references. What is it referencing? So now what I do is I tap on this, and then we go over to our arrow, and you're going to see we have the options to select objects. That's not what I want to do. I want to edit the references. So we can see what I should have done is selected the entire column. So that's what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that series, and now I tap on it again, and it selected that entire column. And we can see that the chart is reflecting that. Let's go and add another series to it. Tap on another column, and now we can see we have another series there. I want to change what type of chart this is. I want to format it, change the colors. We can do that as well. To do that, what we do is we select it, and then we go up to our format. Again, this is how we format our objects, but now that it's a chart, you're going to see that I can format this chart. So I can edit the series, I can add trend lines, I can change the style, I can go and change colors, I can change the data, I can go and arrange it. So that's how we work with our different charts. Now, the iPhone and the iPad have a special feature that the Mac doesn't have, and that is forms. What we're able to do is create forms, and forms make it easy to enter data. So let's go and take a look at how we create forms. So I have this table here. Now what I would like to do is create a form to make it easy to enter new data in there. How can I do that? Well, basically, just like with our pivot tables, what we need to do is we need to select the table that we want to create a form with, and then we tap on the little circle here to get our pop-up menu, and then you're going to see table actions, and from here, we're able to create a form. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to create a new sheet, just like we did with the pivot table, but that sheet is going to be a form where we can easily enter data. So let's just go ahead and do that. And now we can see we have a new sheet here, and we have our form. So from here, I want to add new data. I can tap on the plus to add new data. And now I can go and add my new data in there. We can organize or edit how this form is. So we just tap on the little gear here, and then from here what I'm able to do is rearrange these. I can even make them pop up. So if I wasn't sure what the data was, what I can do is I can go and tap on the I here for category, and you're going to see we have pop-up menu, and now it populates with everything in there. I tap on done. And now when I tap on category, watch what happens. I get a pop-up menu. So we can add pop-up menus to there as well. And then anything that I add in here is going to be added to that original table. So this is a form for that original table. So I tap on done. If I were to go and add something in here, it would add it to this table here. So that's how we work with our forms. Now, the last thing we're going to look at is how we can import, export, as well as share and collaborate. So let's say you wanted to export this out to an Excel document. How can you do that? Well, basically, you just go up to the More button here, and then you're going to see Export. And under Export, we can export it out as an Excel document. That's basically all we have to do. And then you can open it up in Excel. What about importing? Well, with importing, if you have an Excel document, you just put it into the folder. You go over here to the arrow, and then from here, what you're able to do is open up that Excel document, and it'll convert it into a numbers document. And it does work pretty well. Now, in some cases, when you import an Excel document, you may get a warning. You're going to see some warnings there that maybe it doesn't have the right font. Maybe you used a different font in Excel. Well, Numbers doesn't have that, or the iPhone doesn't have it. Or conditional highlighting. You might have had some different rules with conditional highlighting in an Excel document. It'll give you those warnings so then you can easily see what did not convert over. Now, we can also share our documents with our other devices. To do that, you just want to go over to iCloud here and then make sure that you put it into your Numbers iCloud folder. So when I go to iCloud here, you're going to see that I have, when I swipe up, a Numbers folder here. And then all I have to do on my other devices, my iPad, my Mac, is go into that folder, and I'm going to be able to open up any of those documents. And then the last thing is we can also collaborate, which means we can work on a document at the same time as other people. So we can share a document and collaborate at the same time. Pretty simple to do. It does work with iCloud though, so you have to store the document in iCloud Drive. And if it isn't stored in iCloud Drive, Numbers will move it for you automatically. Now, in order to share a document, we're just going to go over here to Recents. And let's just go with this pivot table demo here. I want to share this. Maybe I'd like Beth to work on it with me. In order to do that, what we do is we tap on the share icon here. And then from there, what you're going to see is collaborate. All I have to do is just send Beth a message, and then she's able to open it up with Numbers on her Mac, iPad, or iPhone. And if she doesn't have that, she can actually go to Safari or Chrome and then go to iCloud.com and open it up from there. So she could be on a PC and work with me on this at the same time, even if she's on a PC. So you just go and invite someone to share it. Now, once you invite someone, I'm just going to share this here with myself, my other account, So now it's going to go and share that. Once you share it with someone, you're going to see a new icon. It's updating the spreadsheet here. You're going to see a new icon up here. And that new icon gives you some different options for collaboration. So we can see we have this new icon. I tap on that, and what I'm able to do is see all of the activity. So if someone else made some changes, I'd be able to see those changes. I can also set the activity settings, which allows me to set if I want to be notified when someone makes a change, when people comment, anything like that. And I can also set how I want to manage this. So do I want to share it at all? And if I want to invite people, more people, I can invite more people. I can share it via a link. And when I tap on Share Options, I can set if I want people to add more people, if I want people to make changes, or even set it to where with anyone with a link is able to edit that Excel spreadsheet. Now you have to be careful with this one because anybody with that link is going to be able to work on that spreadsheet. So that's how we collaborate. So that is how we work with numbers on the iPhone. As you can see, it's pretty powerful. We have a lot of features, and basically all of the features are still on par or are on par with the Mac and the iPad version. In fact, we have more features on the iPhone than we do on the Mac. We can create forms. Now, generally, I don't necessarily create new spreadsheets on the iPhone. I will create them on my iPad or on my Mac, but I like to share them so then I can view that on my iPhone. I can view the data on my iPhone. And if I want to make edits, I can do that as well. So that is basically how we work with numbers on the iPhone. So did you like what you see here? Well, what you may want to do is check out danstutorials.com. This is a membership-based website, but it is a way that you could help support my efforts in creating these videos. I have over 2,100 videos on my site, while I have just over 400 on YouTube as of this recording. So I have a lot more on my site. I've been doing a lot longer on my site than I have with YouTube. When you do become a member, all of the videos are ad-free, so you're not going to see any of those little pesky ads. You also get complimentary registration to any of my online events. Could be anything from an Ask Me Anything to a class on a specific piece of software. Again, usually have about 2 or 3 a month. I have an AI assistant that I modeled after an Apple Genius, so you have access to that from my site as well. And then probably most important is you're helping support a small business. It is just me working out of a studio that I converted from a second bedroom in our house. So in addition to all of those other benefits, you also are helping out support a small business. Anyway, I hope you liked it, and if you did check out Dan's Tutorials, thanks for watching.